brought to you by Continental Parts Limited and by NP for all life's journeys.
Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Stuart Young, Minister of National Security, Minister of Communications, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, Parliamentary Secretaries, representatives of the Public Service Permanent Secretaries, the Chairman of the Board of Directors, Ms. Lisa Agard, Board of Directors of CNMG, stakeholders, broadcasters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. Good afternoon, and we welcome you to Television House on Maraval Road, and welcome you to the launch of TTT Limited. Our program this afternoon is a simple one, and we welcome our audiences on television, radio, and online to our official launch program. To deliver remarks, would you please welcome the Chairman of CNMG, Ms. Lisa Agard.
Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Stuart Young, Minister of Communications and other ministries, Cabinet Ministers, Parliamentary Secretaries, Permanent Secretaries, Chairmen and Executives of State Enterprises, the Communications Officers of the respective ministries, industry stakeholders, members of the media, and in particular, members of the staff of TTT Limited, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you to this wonderful occasion today, the launch of TTT Limited. A special greeting to our viewers and listeners on all of our channels. We chose this day for the launch of the new TTT Limited, as it was on the 24th of August 1962, the eve of our independence, that TTT was born. And so much has happened in the intervening 56 years. During that time, TTT was our YouTube, our Netflix, our Facebook. It was the channel where we saw ourselves and experienced the historic shaping of our society into the familiar melting pot that it is today. The faces of television through the years, Auntie Hazel, Holly Batodier, Dale Colasing, Rafi Knowles, Salisha Ali, Alison Hennessy, Horace James, Neil Giuseppe, Jones P. Madeira, to name a few, they were a true reflection of the sweet TNT that we treasure so deeply. The former TTT ensured that Trinidad and Tobago's history-making moments were part of our daily lives. Hazley Crawford in 1976, Janelle Penny Comisiong in 1977, Giselle Laurent in 1986, Brian Lara, Atto Bolden, Wendy Fitzwilliam, and we can go on and on. Fast forward to today, and the media landscape has changed dramatically and is almost unrecognizable. From one television station to an integrated network of TV and radio to the advent of cable TV and the internet. Folks, digital media has disrupted traditional media, and it is growing exponentially. How we consume news and entertainment has shifted with technological advances. For example, in the United States, 71% of those between the ages of 18 and 29 cite the internet as their main source of news. Moreover, this demographic cites social media as their main source of news. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is only one trend. The other trend is that most social media traffic is consumed through smartphones and other smart devices. In addition, consumers are no longer content to be passive consumers of video, print, or other forms of entertainment. In this social media-driven world, consumers are actively looking for control, community, and interactivity. To be relevant today, the new TTT Limited has to reinvent itself and embrace the realities of the digital landscape. So, on the TV side, how do we remain relevant today with all of the competition from cable and over-the-top streaming? There is still a very strong place on TV in this new environment, and globally, although in digital TV advertising is growing faster than traditional TV advertising, the latter, interestingly, still remains the principal source of TV revenue. So to become sustainable, we have to produce content that people want to see, that draws eyeballs, and which will be attractive to advertisers. Hence, our strategic focus on local content. You've heard that not just from TTT, but from the Minister. We are delighted to announce that we are in advanced discussions with owners of already existing local content, which we expect to air. We also look forward to collaborating with them on the production of new content, and we are talking to a variety of players. We are mindful of cost, quality, and competitive content. We are optimistic that in the coming months, the new TTT Limited will roll out its programming for television, offering local content that reflects the breadth of creativity that the national production sector has become. What has been most enlightening to me as part of the development of this strategic thrust is the sheer volume and breadth of the local content that is readily available. They have been clamoring for a mechanism to distribute their content, and we are so happy to partner with them to become the distribution ecosystem for local content that is produced not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the Caribbean and indeed from the diaspora. And folks, as we entertain, we must not forget the sacred duty we discharge being part of the fourth estate. We too have our role to play in reporting and holding national institutions to account. In closing, the board, management, and staff of the new TTT Limited look forward to contributing to the new chapter in Trinidad and Tobago's history as we entertain, enlighten, and enhance our society. Permit me, on behalf of the staff of TTT, to wish happy independence to all citizens and welcome to the new TTT Limited.
Thank you very much to our chairman, Ms. Lisa Agard. In referencing the start of TTT 1962, and in reference to those who have contributed over the years, the acknowledgement that this location, Television House, and this institution, TTT, played a significant and connected part to the shaping of our society. At the request of those in charge of our event today, we made it possible to share a moment of the starting point of that great independence of 1962 and the role that the state broadcaster TTT played. And we could ask none other than Mr. Wesley Gibbings to take us on a journey. Let's watch.
When Trinidad and Tobago Television first went on the air on Friday, August 24, 1962, it marked the advent of a new era in the history of mass media in the country and the Caribbean. It also served as an important achievement ahead of the declaration of political independence just 1 week after, an event it would memorably televise from the evening of August 30th to the wee hours of August 31st, Independence Day. Newspaper dispatches on August 24th provided information on fine-tuning television sets and the contracting of local film producers Wilfred E. Lee and Company to film and process material for airing that evening. 7 p.m. Trinidad and Tobago time would never thereafter be the same. In a sense, the introduction of an indigenous television broadcaster entrenched the station's role as an important instrument of the independence process, by providing a new platform for creative expression and the dissemination of information to transform the lives of all Trinidadians and Tobagonians. Television House at Maraval Road was where some dreams navigated in order to come true. It was also the first television outfit to be established in the Commonwealth Caribbean, and was a joint enterprise involving the International Thomson Organization of the United Kingdom, Columbia Broadcasting System of the US, British Rediffusion, and with a minority holding by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Prior to the liberalizing of broadcast media in the country in 1991, TTT was the only television on which Trinidadians and Tobagonians could have seen themselves on programs conceptualized, produced, directed, and presented by nationals. Through such a lens, people saw on display their culture and their lifestyles, their triumphs and their challenges. Over the years, TTT was responsible for the nurturing and development of more than one generation of broadcaster and the showcasing of the creative skills and imagination of a nation. Other long-standing media enterprises now operated alongside a medium that brought to life the staid text and images of the newspaper and the faceless sounds and voices of radio. The evening newscast became an integral part of domestic routine, and the faces and voices of the nation's leading on-camera talent had now achieved celebrity status. Cameras and microphones were now taking remote communities, towns, and villages to the nation's living rooms. Opportunities were created for wider exposure to the dance, music, art, and culinary skills of people operating in their unique spaces. Technical capacity was honed in a professional environment, and those who followed could in most cases later pay tribute to the role TTT had played in harnessing the potential of an industry that changed the face of the nation.
Our thanks to Mr. Wesley Gibbings for guiding us through the early years. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gibbings is the president of the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, and Wesley Gibbings is with us today. Wesley, would you stand and just be acknowledged for a minute, please? Mr. Wesley Gibbings. Aye, there he is. Thank you very much, and thank you for your contribution to our presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite to address you the Minister of Communications, the Minister of National Security, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister. Would you please welcome the Honourable Stuart Young.
Good afternoon. Dr. the Honourable Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, my cabinet colleagues, I debated whether to call all of your names, but of many they are here. I'd like at this time to also welcome the parliamentary secretaries, and in particular, we have joining us our recently returned, and I'm happy to see him here, Parliamentary Secretary, Mr. Maxi Cuffy from the Ministry of Public Administration, Ms. Lisa Agard, Chairman of the Board of CNMG, and as we sit here transitioning to TTT Limited, other members of the Board of TTT Limited, invited members of the public, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. thank you all for coming here this afternoon to share a few brief but important moments with us. It was a vision of this administration not too long ago when we contemplated what to do with this establishment and how to go forward during our term and into the future with the establishment of CNMG. And the decision was taken that there was a need for government to continue in the communications field and to have platforms for communication, including a television station. And around the cabinet table not too long ago, it was a very short debate and a decision taken to bring back the brand of TTT. As I sat there reflecting, I recall when TTT, and I can recall it, when TTT was the only television station we had in Trinidad and Tobago. Looking at the short video presentation a short while ago, I saw some of the people. You had Ricky Ticky, Auntie Hazel, Uncle Ian. For me, Sesame Street was played, a foreign program, but nevertheless on TTT. And then the only show I was allowed to look at as a young guy growing up in my parents' home was Panorama News. During the week, we weren't allowed to look at television, apart from we would sit as a family at the 7 o'clock news and look at Panorama. There is a lot of nostalgia associated with the brand TTT. As the chairman has said, we've now entered a completely new dynamic in the media industry with the advent of social media and the fast pace at which information is allowed to pass and between our smartphones and other devices. And that is one of the challenges we face in communication today. And I think one of the messages I'd like to share with you all today as we get into what is the purpose of TTT going forward is the responsibility of the media and understanding the responsible roles that we play in ensuring that we give the public who are counting on us accurate news and not fall into the trap of misinformation and this concept that has now grown exponentially overnight and is taking over, especially on social media, of fake news. One of the mandates of TTT in going forward is to lead the charge to provide the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and those who will view us from outside with 100% accurate news, and also in instances to combat the fake news proliferation that is taking place in today's society and the harm that that brings to it. So the first medium and platform for us is going to be accurate news, both in the traditional news sense, but also during the day, combining our television station along with our radio stations in ensuring that our population and public are provided with accurate news and also combating the scourge of fake news that may be taking place. Having said that, production and local production are not just the cliche of local content, but we have some exciting concepts that are being developed to provide platforms for the young entrepreneurs out there and those who want a platform to showcase their talent and their local production and shows. We will also be ensuring that there is proper documentation. We're going to go back to the archives, and some of the time on our airwaves would be spent providing that historical perspective of Trinidad and Tobago. Because patriotism is an important concept for us in Trinidad and Tobago. And it is a word that sometimes I think we don't quite understand and grasp. It always interests me when we travel abroad, some countries take their history so seriously and ensure that the younger generations are exposed to the history of our islands, who our sportsmen and women were, who the politicians of the past were, the leaders of the country were. And we also hope to provide that through the platform of TTT. Another area that we will be providing is some new conceptual talk shows where we will have the youth being given a program. Because our young people, especially in this day and age, have very strong voices and very strong opinions. And we're no longer dealing with generations where they will just swallow what the older generations have told them. So we intend to provide a platform for youth discourse, it is very important to this administration that we provide outlets for intellectual conversations and conversations amongst people as to how we develop our Twin Island state going forward. I'm not going to let too much out of the bag. Further than that, we are also going to be using the social media platform, because increasingly that has become, especially for certain generations, the go-to for news and information. So the board has been working on that with the management to develop our social media platform. And as we know, you have to keep it very snappy, very interesting, and grab the viewership, the listeningship, and everyone's attention. So that is another area we will be focused on. I say it now that we are prepared to partner with those who are looking for platforms for constructive outlets to broadcast their many talents. I will end by closing with the concept that we, as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, it's our strong belief, have to bring back the whole positive energy and the messages of positivity. I will state it here that it is my opinion that too often we're being dragged down with negativity in our society, and too often we're letting media platforms focus only on the bacchanal and the negative, etc. The mandate, or one of the mandates for TTT, is to try and bring back the positivity. Let us showcase, because we have a lot of talent in Trinidad and Tobago. Let us go out to the rural areas, find those school children who are out there doing good in their communities, and the persons doing good in communities, and showcase them. Because part of patriotism is being proud of our country. And it is TTT's mandate to deliver on that concept of patriotism and to be used as a tool to rebuild the positives in our society and to give those who are willing to put forward the positive concepts and the positivity of our leaders and our growing leaders and even the people just in the communities who are leaders in those communities, but give everyone a platform now as we rebuild that concept in the media. And we will work along with other persons. We see ourselves working with the other media houses going forward as well, and finding the synergies as what we seek to do is really build our country of Trinidad and Tobago going forward. With those few words, I thank you for your time here this afternoon. We will shortly be launching the new logos and the new brands, which I'm particularly excited about. I thank the new board. They came in at a very short time period to get this launch done and to come up with the concepts going forward. I thank my cabinet colleagues and the Prime Minister for the faith and confidence in allowing us to rebrand TTT and hopefully deliver to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago a new and dynamic concept in the media space that exists. I thank you all very much.
Thank you, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored today to have the Honorable Prime Minister with us, and so without any further ado, I invite to address you the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Wendell. My cabinet colleagues, permit me to make special recognition of the Minister of Communication, among other things. Today he is the Minister of Communications only. Other members of the government, particularly my media colleague from the constituency of Lahore Capital Paru. It's such a wonderful feeling to see you here with us today, Maxi Coffee. Ms. Lisa Agard and her board, members of the executive of TTT, or the late CNMG, whichever you want to be called for the next few minutes, distinguished guests, members of staff, members of the wider media, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, friends all. I'm a unusual person to ask to officiate in this rebirth of a television station, possibly a media network, because when I think about it, I'm only here to do one thing, and it's to represent the past. Because you see, I don't know how many of you, particularly the staff, who would know far as to remember when we didn't have television. So let me tell you where we came from and who I am. I grew up in a village in Tobago, and we used to hear about television as something they had in America, where people would be on a screen and you could see them. And from time to time, persons will come back from America and tell us about television and what's on television, and I dare say black and white television. And we started to inquire about why we don't have television here. And I'm a little embarrassed to tell you this, but they told us why we didn't have television here, and I believed it. They told us that the reason why we didn't have television, I was in primary school, I think about age 10 or thereabouts. And they told us that the ground wasn't strong enough to have television. And I believed it, because I believed the people who were telling me. And that is the power of trusting those who talk to you and being ignorant of what you're being told. There was a time in my life when I genuinely believed that we couldn't have television because the ground was not strong enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we went on to getting a radio, and I remember the people on radio. Some of the names are still quite familiar to me. Desmond Bourne, Ken Gordon, people like that. And hearing the radio, we would walk away confidently saying, it's true, we heard it on the radio. Today you do that at your peril. And then we grew up on black and white television. When last you watched black and white television? It's positively awful. You're kind of looking through grass to see who is behind the bush. And today, we move from the ground being too soft to black and white television, to HD television, to the age of Dick Tracy, where we're living by what's on our phone in our hand, and I dare say on our watches. And I'm talking about it and the capacity as Prime Minister of this country, coming from where I came from, in television. But I think I'm qualified to say something about television as media, and that is that all cameras are always on, all microphones are always live, and you really have very few friends in media. I think I made 2 friends in media in about 40 years of being exposed to media. But they're 2 very dear friends, one of whom I taught in school. I think that started the friendship. And maybe it's on that basis that I have a friend in media. But the media is such an integral part of our quality of life that is only if it's absent that we know how important it is to us. And I grew up in this country, and today we have a Parliament channel, which very many citizens rely on for believable information, because it's live, and if it's edited, I think the Parliament is one of the more trusted institutions in the country, the Parliament staff, not parliamentarians. So I am proud today to speak to, for, and with TTT, because I had the privilege of answering or working towards answering a question that was raised in the Parliament as to whether Parliament proceedings should be broadcast live. And I chair that committee. And at the end of our discourse and consultations, we concluded, yes, Parliament proceedings should be broadcast live. And I don't think there's anybody in the country today who would say that we should go back to the era when Parliament was not broadcast live, because it has contributed to an improvement in ourselves, an improvement in our knowledge. And that brings me to the point about whether, in fact, the state should support, fund, and encourage state-owned media. It's being said by some people that the state should not be involved in media. And the reason being that there's enough media in the country, so there's no need for the state to be involved in media. But if that argument could have held true, one would have great difficulty explaining the tremendous value of the BBC in the United Kingdom and of PBS broadcasting in the United States. Because I'm sure those broadcasting entities lasted so long and are so important because they have proven that there is a significant need, and they've defended their existence. And there are those who would tell you that those two stations or networks are about as pristine as you can get and as believable as you can get in broadcasting. In Trinidad and Tobago, the other point of view that is expressed is that if the government or the state as it is owns a broadcasting entity, it is sure to be only government political propaganda for political purposes. There might be some truth in some of that, but that can't be the whole story. Because the government is probably the largest generator of news in the nation. And if that is so, broadcasting it from source without dilution must have some value. If it redounds to the benefit of the government of the day, if it's a government that is generating good news, who's complaining about that? What's the complaint? If it's bad news, you need to know. And if the government is going to tell you the bad news about itself, then you need to know. But I've seen in my time between HD television and the wheat ground of Tobago, I have seen television, and I did probably even media, I could go right and say media, let's say television. And this television, this state-owned television, I have seen it move from pristine pioneering to absolute abuse, the entire spectrum. To the point where at one stage in my political career, my public service, I was one of those who believed or supported the idea that the state ought not to be involved in broadcasting and media. But over time, as I looked at the role that it could play, that it has played, that it is playing, not only in our country but elsewhere, I became convinced that there was a role for state broadcasting, and more importantly, especially in this, I should say, rebranding or resurrection of that outstanding brand, Trinidad and Tobago Television, TTT, a brand that is so powerful that no other television station could have a brand name like TTT, Trinidad and Tobago Television. This time around, the policy is that we would learn from what has happened before. what we were before and what we weren't before. And that over and above being a news carrier, it's more important for this generation of TTT to be a program producer. And it's against that background that the Ministry of Finance will support TTT, not just to carry news, not just to broadcast other people's package program, but to be a producer of content in Trinidad and Tobago, for Trinidad and Tobago, and for external value. I have seen young people given limited opportunity and with limited technical equipment surpass my greatest expectation in producing content of the highest quality. Content that can be archived, content that can be entertaining, content that could be educational. And what TTT is aiming to do now is to provide them with an opportunity and a platform to produce and to market. And what we expect to happen is that the Exchequer would not just fund jobs, but will fund projects. And if the projects are of such quality that people would want to watch them, then that brings revenue through advertisement. And those producers, young, middle-aged, and old, should be able to share that revenue, and that should be an impetus for us to produce. So this would be our production house. We're calling to action today those persons of talent who have talent to conceptualize what should be produced and what we should watch. Whether it is performances of music, art, dance, it is plays, it is documentaries of one kind or another, the stories of nature, the lives of those we share the area with, man and non-human, science, and of course, if that is the basis, then we could reach out to other areas in the Commonwealth where there are similar interests like ours. And when we bring programs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I trust that we'll bring those programs that would elevate us, entertain us, drive us to having a higher quality of life. And as I mentioned, quality. It is not everybody who sees a microphone should be in front of a microphone. Screen them carefully. Screen them carefully. Let our children learn English from TTT and your producers. Let our children learn to conduct a debate, even an argument, in a civil and uplifting manner. Some people have no place in front of a television screen trying to educate the public. Let there be a qualification of excellence in this station. And whatever support we get from the taxpayer, let it be an investment in what I've just mentioned. I know some people very quickly only see the losses and the jobs. But let us see the expenditure, accountable expenditure, as an investment creating products for which we should have a yearning. If today what was happening was the closure of CNMG, the singular issue that would have been making the news and entertaining us now is the loss of jobs and the breadline. Fortunately, it is the opposite that's happening. We're not closing CNMG. We are opening doors to a brighter future. Some might say we have many television stations in the country, so why encourage this dinosaur to come back into the playing field? If the number of television stations is what should determine whether there should be a public broadcasting entity, then there would not have been a public broadcasting entity in America. There's no country with more television stations in the private sector than the United States. But they do have public broadcasting. They do have C-SPAN, which is the equivalent of our Parliament channel. There's a reason why they're there. And if quality programming could only come from one source, then ITV could have done it for the British. Today, we should undertake, and we're charging the board that undertaking, to let TTT be a gold standard of quality in broadcasting in Trinidad and Tobago. And we're not here to compete with the other stations, to outcompete them for news and for business. We're here to share the space, and in fact to strengthen them, because if we succeed in being the kind of production house that we say we can be at TTT for the nation, with taxpayer support, then what we produce should find its way into some of those other channels. Because content, if it's valuable, would find its way as far as its quality would take it. In this day and age, where you have to question everything that comes in front of you in the form of information, not just news, just general information, and the technology that allows misinformation, malice, planned and aforethought, to find its way into the ether, this state broadcasting station has the role of building a reputation of being a bastion for correct information. It must be the place where the nation, when questioned, or when a question arises as to whether you should believe the last thing that is trending, that if you see it or you hear it on TTT, you know that it has been checked, it has been double-checked, and it is true, and then you broadcast it. Because that is sorely needed in today's world. The era of Cambridge Analytica and the era of the obnoxious phrase of fake news. They all have no place in the face of truth. And of course, we have had a history of quality broadcasting in this country, and it is that which we hanker after. As I was coming around the street there a while ago, I saw the logo, nameplate of the Ken Gordon School of Journalism. And I trust that that means that we are subscribing to the highest standards which have been proven in this country before. We can do it. There is talent in this country that is being stifled. Expose them. There's value that is unrealized. Go after that value. And if we do that, the diversification that we talk about can be achieved. We as a people, most of us have grown up accepting only what has been approved abroad for us, even of our very own. Jeffrey Holder goes abroad on Broadway, and we know then that he's a star. Sparrow goes to Carnegie Hall, we know that he's a star. But if we do things right here in Trinidad and Tobago, we will know who is a star here before the rest of the world see them shining. We must give them that stamp of approval here by setting high standards and encouraging them to perform to the highest standard. So when a product is made and it carries somewhere on the screen the label TTT, that must be like a wedding ring on a finger to a new bride and to a nation that observes quality and believes that we trust in boundless faith in our destiny. TTT is our label, TTT is our national television station, and TTT is ours. Let us go forward with boundless faith in that destiny. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister. Well, the big moment is here. At the front of TTT Limited is a pylon that has the logos of what is in our home. 3 radio stations, that significant FM Suite 100, Next 99.1 and Talk City 91.1, and at the top of that pylon will be the new TTT Limited logo. So whether you come from the south or the north of Maraval Road or across Marley Street, you will know where Television House is. And beneath that will be the official plaque that officiates and acknowledges that you were here to launch TTT Limited. We invite you, Prime Minister, Minister of Communications, and the Chairman to please join us now for the launch of TTT Limited. Prime Minister, perfect timing, just like television. The music score ends in time with the unveiling of the new logo of TTT Limited. Thank you, Prime Minister. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we allow the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security and Communications to view the produced supportive work, a collaboration of persons in TTT Limited and persons who provide production services to TTT Limited have contributed to the new station ID for TTT Limited. Let's watch. And that's young talent of Trinidad and Tobago. And at the request of many of our viewers, at the request of many of our stakeholders, news from tonight on TTT starts at 6:30 p.m. And we will be promoting our news with one of these station promos for TTT.
Every day, better at what we do. Deliver more news. If it matters to you, it matters to us. We report the news. News in real time. News across Trinidad and Tobago. Wherever you are. TTT News. Connect.
From Television House, the TTT Newscast. And finally, Prime Minister, that means that the online activities from the NLCB moves to a new time of 7 p.m. from tonight. They have been an integral stakeholder in making it possible for us to improve our production capability over the last recent months. So thanks to the NLCB, and their draws will be at 7 o'clock this evening. That's just the promo for Playway and all the other draws, especially for those who need to be in a particular place at a particular time. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, to our viewers, to our stakeholders, it's a word of opportunity at this time. No matter where we are in our society, there will now be a chance to see TTT. There will be a chance to listen to Talk City, Sweet 100, and Next 99.1. There will be the website ttt.live, and soon to be presented as well will be the app that presents the website and all of the streaming content from our channels. At the end of the day, therefore, whether you're in Trinidad and Tobago or across the world, you will be able to stay in touch with Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks, of course, to the work of everyone involved. Our thanks to the staff of TTT Limited. Our thanks to the leadership and guidance of our board, our chairman of TTT Limited, Ms. Lisa Agard, our directors, and the management team who have been working steadfastly for the last 30 days to make all good things happen in this building for the benefit of all peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. And our thanks to the special guests who are with us today for making it possible that when we remember Independence 2018, we will remember the start of a new era of TTT Limited. I thank you.